Thank you for stopping at my corner of the internet. I encourage you to embrace the symbolism behind the lion totem with me. The lion represents strength, courage, leadership, and personal power. I'm inspired by the journeys, insights, and transformations that shape who we are, and I can't wait to share these with you. Without further ado, I want to welcome you to the Lion's Heart podcast. Welcome back. This is part 2 of my conversation with Jules.
After stopping school and searching for God and religion and the purpose of life, I became a Jehovah Witness. And maybe Jehovah Witness from the door-to-door preaching. So when I was giving a Bible course to a Dominican friend of mine from the Dominican Republic, and he had some involvement with justice, and he needed to go in front of the judge, and he had a translator there, a interpreter. And when I saw the interpreter working, I thought to myself, if this is interpreting, I can do that also. So I went back to the back office and what should I do to become an interpreter? In that time, it's really we're still now in the early 90s. They told me, here, write your name. So they're starting to invite me to interpret it for the police. So I became a freelance court and police interpreter. And that became part of my life. I had more or less my own business. And through my contacts with, the justice and police people, I started to work for the government, for the Ministry of Justice, and tried some other studies, but I couldn't manage because I could not concentrate. I needed a different approach to study, but I didn't know that back then.
That's very cool. So that took a few turns, but
yes,
you found
so
yourself.
I started working for the Ministry of Justice, for the public prosecutor, and then I went to the I don't know if you know the FIU, that stands for Financial Intelligence Unit, a government agency where banks have to inform people on money laundering and so. And my director back then, he was very interested in the way I spoke English, I spoke Spanish, so he made for me a trainer of a tool we have to exchange information. So now I have been able to travel to all European capitals. I traveled to Peru, to the islands and go back. Then just that's the way it all went in life. So I'm very happy that I switched on a certain moment, and somewhere I'm also. This will sound strange, but I'm happy in a way that I did not finish my school because I'm afraid I would have become, like arrogant lawyer. People sometimes when they study, they tend to become arrogant, and I'm sure without the training, without my Bible training, I would have become those nasty, arrogant people. So this kept me, I haven't finished my study. It kept me humble, and in a way, in a way, you have spite, in a way, but on the other hand, you also have well, maybe that was the best for me. So not for, but for me, that might have been the best, And then when you get married, you have your children here. When you set roots in the Netherlands, then it becomes very difficult to return to the islands.
Did you ever think you would return when you were working before you had a
Yes,
family
I
and
had
children?
multiple. I had like three great offers to return and to work there, but my wife, she's also from Curacao. She didn't want to go back, and that's she is like, I came to study and to return, but she came really to migrate. And we, when you have your house and you have everything running, it's not easy, to just start all over again. But yes, I really had some moments that I thought of going back.
And what
Um,
pulled you back or away from the Netherlands?
well, in a way, it's, when my mother was still living, I really wanted to return. That was one of the anchors, one something that really, that's one of the reason I really wanted to go back and work there. On the other hand, something that also pulled, in the Netherlands, I always explain like this: to succeed, you start at 0-1. You have to first empata. How do you say that? You have to sort to get even,
Yeah.
and then you can win. Starting, with 0-1 means that they always tend to judge you because you're not Dutch. You're not equal. So to become equal, you always have to prove yourself. And for sure, when you have not finished your schooling, if you didn't finish your school, it's even worse because they tend to underestimate you in everything.
Mhm.
Because having a paper here is very important. But I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining how I experienced it. All of these things, they were part of my forming me to who I needed to be. So it's
Mhm.
it's it's fine, but it's a fact that when you're not from here, you're not recognized always as equal until you prove yourself. And that is my experience. It might not be the experience of everyone, but it's for sure my experience. And in the same voice, I will say I had also people that really helped me in my career. I mentioned you my director because he is more someone who look into the not who you are but who you can become. And so he mentored me. So I'm very grateful for all the people that helped me in my career. But it's not easy
Yes,
always,
it's both, and it's not one thing or the other. It's both, and
No, it's
that is,
both, yes.
yeah, life, and it forms you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm in Curacao, I don't need all of that. The same thing. My family name, my surname is Antonia. It's a feminine name, so people tend to like, why, but there, when I introduce myself like Antonia, it's fine. Everybody recognize that as a surname, but those small details of things, that means that you're home. So home is always attractive. I've
Mhm.
been living here for over 40 years, but still I tend, when I'm back on the island, that then I'm really home.
Oh wow.
um, Everybody understands how we, if you're there, they understand how we eat, they understand our humor, they understand our names. While here, you need to explain everything. but I,
Yeah.
but I have two homes. When I'm here, it's also fine, but I never managed really to really become Dutch.
At the end of the day, you don't really feel like you are home in the Netherlands. Did I understand that
Well,
correctly,
no,
or how is
no,
that?
no. I tend to explain it like this. Sometimes they want you to be one thing,
Mhm.
but I say always I have roots and I have wings.
Mhm.
So I feel Curacao is my roots, is my home. When I'm on the island, I really am home. But the Netherlands is also home. I've lived
Mhm.
here. I have my children here. They grow up here. I speak Dutch. I understand the culture, even though I don't recognize it as being my culture. Sometimes we also aren't really completamente di Corso, but also from here.
In betweeners.
Yes, you're so I have roots and I have wings, and I'm fine with that. But I recognize that living, and I believe it's not only in the Netherlands, living as a foreigner in a different country always has some very particular challenges. And one of
Mhm.
them is always you might be underestimated in what you can, because from their perspective you don't master the language very well, or you don't master it as a native one. So, and that's when people tend to judge you. Oh, he doesn't speak well Dutch, so maybe he's not that intelligent. For sure, I'm not generalizing, because I have great friends, great people that are not judgmental. It's more the tendency, the
Yeah, tendencies.
yes,
Mhm.
without not the individual, more general.
It's just human
Generally,
nature.
and
Yeah.
like we have that also on the islands. You know how
Mhm.
sometimes they treat the Dominicans, they treat the Haitians. You see, I've learned that things they do there with the extranjeros, like the
Mhm.
Dominicans, is how they treat us sometimes in the
Mhm.
Netherlands and in Europe. So it's a great way to learn what not to do.
Yes, I completely agree. And yeah, I'm interested in the rest of your journey. So you decided to become an interpreter. I find your journey very cool, by the way, because first you start off thinking, oh, I don't dominate this language, but then your
Yes.
journey takes you into becoming a
Yeah.
master at languages and helping ministries even and the police. So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
When your journey continues, I wonder what is the advice you would give to maybe younger generations who find themselves in a similar position with their study.
Um, I thought of this question. I would say first surround yourself with students that really want to study. You know, people around us tend to have a lot of influence on us. I had some friends when they came, they bought a car and then went partying, but before the end of the month, their money was up. No money, so they had some difficult times. So surround yourself with people that are interested in studying and genuinely interested in helping you. I didn't recognize back then in my time there were some teachers that were really willing to help me, but I didn't recognize that, what they said. So I did not make profound good
Okay.
use of that help. But there are people that are really willing to help, so make use of that. Be very careful with, because not all, and if we are sincere about it, if we're honest, we know that some of our youngsters in the street are involved with stuff that isn't good, with criminality, and so you really have to move along, get away from those kind of people, because before you know it, you're involved, and so the kring around you, the vriendenkring around you, that would be a very important lesson. If you have family that are serious people, and that you should stay close to them.
And to round off, you're one of my last guests. So thank you so much for responding to my ad on LinkedIn. In between, of course, I had a baby, so it was more difficult to organize everything. But I would like to thank you for your patience and your willingness to help me along. And yeah, as a
Amazing.
last question, I would like to ask you, as one of my older interviewees, is there something that you see is going in the right direction when it comes to Caribbean students migrating to the Netherlands? And also criticism, of course, that's also welcome.
Well, I met some students from the Hague
The Haagse
Haagse
Hogeschool
Hogeschool who were really doing their utmost. They had like stages,
internship, yeah.
internships, working hard, doing great, and I really liked what I see. I loved it, how they work, and if I have the opportunity, I always will send them, vacatures, and keep in touch with them, how they're progressing in the professional life. So that's why I use LinkedIn very much. I believe we have a great group of people, working hard, but I'm not always aware of those that don't succeed. I
Mhm.
know that some of them have it real hard. I had a friend who was studying nursery, and she was telling me, from the group of Antillean students that came with her, she was the only one that was still studying at the school. And
Mhm.
I don't know how many they were, but that's quite sad. On one hand, I believe some of them are really doing well, but the opvang, just not when they arrive, but the continuance of assisting them to, because these are sometimes youngsters, 18, 19, and everything is new, so they need some real guidance. In my time, we had the Antillean constellation,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
I
yes.
had an eilandsbeurs, from Curacao, and you had a group of people that mentor and you had een gedelegeerde. I don't know all these terms in English. Their job was to make sure that you were studying. So I really appreciated that back then. For instance, when I decided I want to stop with the study, they called my father. He came over. We went there to the bureau, and so we discussed it. But there was a like a vangnet. You know what a vangnet is in to assist us back
Yeah.
then, and that all stopped, I believe, for one of the reason, budget, and I don't know. But I believe it was well organized in my time. Maybe that's what missing. The world has got much more individualized.
Yeah.
Everybody has to take care of themselves. So and we're not like that. We're more of a collective culture. We take care of each other in
Indeed.
family, in neighborhoods. Well, that's my opinion, but it's only my opinion. I
Yeah,
tend to
but
keep
it's
far
good.
away from politics and this stuff.
But it's good to put it out there and reflect on. And I don't know how it is all set up at the moment. When I moved in 2012, I still had a mentor and Aruba house, and my year decided to also participate in the committee, in the opvang committee.
Yeah,
And yeah, I didn't because maybe more similar to your wife. When I moved from Aruba, I decided to just leave the island
yeah.
because on the island I always felt like a an immigrant already. I thought I didn't belong there. So yeah.
For what I explained, how we tend to.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, exactly. Because I was born in Colombia and I saw this
huh.
hierarchy of how they treated foreigners, and it
Yeah.
depended on what language people spoke. So if you were American and you lived 20 years on the
Yes.
island, you were treated wonderfully.
Yeah.
But if you were Colombian and you didn't speak Papiamento or whatever, you were treated horribly. So similar.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then with the years, I really like what you said that it's the islands is are your roots and the Netherlands are your wings. I think that's a very beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
I can also find myself in that.
Yes. Yes. Spread your wings and fly.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's a good message.
So if I might turn the table and ask you some question, if
Okay.
allowed.
Yes, sure.
So when I spoke about how they tend to treat the foreigners on the islands, you really recognize that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
completely.
Because we tend to become very angry when they treat us, more or less generalizing and telling we're all criminals, etc., and discriminating.
Yeah,
But sometimes we do much the same when we're back home.
yeah,
You know, I don't know in the Aruba practice, but I grow up and I always go when I go to the Chinese restaurant. I would call the person Chino,
yeah,
Chino.
yeah.
But then I realized, well, that's not correct. So I always say, now, sir, how many have you experienced that process
Of being
of
named
yes,
something as an outsider or things like that.
yes. So being more or less an outsider there, and oh no, it's not really the same because I wasn't the outsider there.
Mhm.
You were, and
Yeah.
and here more or less I'm the outsider, and
Mhm.
that's where I learned. I really appreciated when people treat you correctly, but you were also they treated you as Colombian horribly.
I think personally, I saw it more. So
Mm.
maybe once or twice in high school, they told me by Bopay's back, but I brushed it off.
Oh,
But it was more in how I analyzed that they talked about other Colombians.
yeah.
And yeah, I have this interesting mix of Colombian and Grenadian. So I spoke English and Spanish at home. And Grenada is also yeah, a
Yeah.
foreigner in Aruba, migrant group.
Yes, yes, of course.
So in Aruba, I experienced that, for example, I went to school in Oranjestad, and over there
Mm.
I always felt like, oh, I'm from St. Nicholas. Even though I moved
Mm.
to Ponton afterwards, my roots were really St. Nicholas, and St. Nicholas really feels like home because they speak English and
Mm.
Papiamento with an English accent, so that's
Yeah, 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 I know. I had
yeah,
some aunt of mine who lived in San Nicolas.
yes, yes. So it's very multi-layered. I think I can write a whole
Mm-hmm.
book about it because yeah, I felt like an outsider, but especially my street, Lago Heights, San Nicolas, that is home. But Aruba as a whole, I don't think Aruba as a whole embraced the whole mix of Grenada and Colombia. That I would not say. And I would see how they would treat Colombians in general, also on the news, and how they would talk about it. When you mention Haitians, I think
Mm-hmm.
Haitians are the ones who get the most flack, and how people would talk about Colombians. But then I would feel like, but I am Colombian, but people, because I have other layers, they
Mm-hmm.
would brush past it, or because I spoke English and not only Spanish at home, it it felt like it didn't really reach me, but I saw
Mm-hmm.
it, and they are my people, so yeah, it's a bit layered. Yeah,
But so, because did they recognize you immediately as not being Aruban? Because
definitely.
you look very like Aruban from me for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think from far people already see me as Latina, and I've heard from a future friend. When he saw me in high school, he thought that it was very strange that I was speaking English with my sister. It's like, Kiko Latina kita hasi papi English.
Uh-huh.
Kita kita. It's like, how
Mm-hmm.
dare you? Um, but they do recognize me as, yeah, the Latina. But then, of course, when you get to know me and my story, I speak Spanish with my mom. I'm very
Mm.
proud of my, like, where I was born in Colombia. I cannot hide it. You will find out
Yeah.
the moment you meet me. So very fast that becomes evident, and also the food people would eat at home. Culture is very evident in the food. So I would eat calalu and yeah, frijoles, and it's
Yeah.
a blend of Grenada and Colombia, and a little bit of Aruban cuisine, maybe funchi.
Yeah.
But the things that my classmates from Aruba would eat, those words I didn't speak at home. So there you already create a differentiation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Aruba tends to be even more, difficult to say, but they tend to discriminate a little more, even more than on Curacao. But
Oh, you
still,
think
it's on
so?
all the, it's on it's, and that's why discrimination in itself is something like humans do.
Yeah.
Whenever something is different, they tend to, you're not part of us, you're other, and
Yeah, us and
um,
them. Here, I want to chime in to say that Aruban identity is quite complex. In high school, as part of the history subject, I had to read the book Quinta Arubiano. It's a book that explores social integration and nation building in Aruba from around 1924 to 2001. Those of you who are interested can check it out. I will leave it in the show notes. Furthermore, I want to highlight one of the things that protected me from being discriminated on the island: my privilege in various avenues. So, I had the Dutch nationality from birth. That is something other Colombians maybe couldn't say on the island, leaving them susceptible to discrimination. I had great grades and attended VWO, so the pressure to prove myself as an immigrant is something I did not experience on the island as a teenager. Here I have the educational privilege that dissolves people criticizing me. My ability to speak languages well on the island is also a privilege. I could not be boxed as only Spanish speaking because I also spoke English, and thus perhaps extending the privilege of the English speaking immigrants to me. And finally, I acknowledge that the othering of me versus them is something done also by ourselves. In my case, because I couldn't recognize certain words in my own home when I came across them with my friends, when it comes to food, for example, or certain words that they described in Papiamento, I created the othering also. Maybe it was a way for me to protect myself against being discriminated, and also it's a way for you to figure out your own identity. And it's quite complex because as humans, we want to belong, we want to feel like we belong, and we want to be embraced. But as teenagers, we also want to figure out our own identity. I have a funny anecdote about food, language, and belonging. Growing up, whenever I mentioned kalalu, no one around me ate that at home or knew what it was. And whenever my friends talked about yambo, I had no clue what that was either. I had never eaten it. It is only a few years ago, while I was walking at a Dutch market with an Aruban friend, when she pointed out a yambo, I looked and read okra. I was in shock and had to laugh. I could not believe that I had gone all this time thinking that I could not relate to what they were describing as yambo. You cannot make kalalu without okra, and you cannot make yambo without okra. All this time, this word separated me from them, when in reality we were actually talking and describing the same slimy vegetable when we were talking about these dishes. Like my guest mentioned, sometimes it feels like you are not with your people when you have to explain your cuisine and your customs. I think food is a great way of bringing people together. Nowadays, I feel extremely at home in Aruban or any Caribbean communities. Just like the book Quinta Arubiano highlights, Aruba is a melting pot. Also, whenever people are describing foods to you, listen, try them. Because in the moment when things are explained, it can be really special and is part of true community building. How else do you think New York became known for its pizza? London known for its Indian food and jerk chicken. Doner kebabs are the food in Berlin. Satay and sambal in certain cities in the Netherlands. And here in Groningen, we also have a great Venezuelan restaurant that sells arepas and a new St. Martin cafe where all my Aruban friends go and get their Johnny cake and jerk chicken. Anyways, rarely do I find an Aruban person who they themselves, their parents or their grandparents are not from somewhere else. In the final part of my conversation with Jules, he shares some wisdom on how he sees being an immigrant. Then he turned the table on me and started asking me questions. I'll share a few snippets of that with you.
I learned to embrace the difference, because here I'm foreigner. There, I try to treat people as I wish they do here. Being a foreigner is for me no condition or whatsoever. Basically, you're human, and that's it. So, is Aruba for you roots or wings?
Oh, good question. Again, it goes back to St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas is roots.
Do you go back, to Colombia?
Like between 18 and 28, I hadn't been to Colombia. And then when I landed in Colombia and I saw the mountains, I broke down. It's like the feeling of being home,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was great having this session.
And finally, I had more time, of course, to think about how I see the various countries in my journey, what my roots and what my wings are, and I see it as follows. My roots are Manizales and San Nicolas, so Colombia and Aruba. My stem is Ponton and Groningen, so again Aruba and the Netherlands. And my wings are Rotterdam and The Hague. It's a powerful image with which to frame your journey. Thank you for listening.